Two solar eclipses coming, one annular, one total. I'm 5 News Chief Meteorologist Matt Standridge. One is coming this weekend, this Ring of Fire annular solar eclipse on Saturday across the western and southern U.S. And then on April 8th, 2024, a total solar eclipse takes place across southern and then mid-south, Tennessee River Valley, Ohio River Valley area of the U.S., and then ending up in the New England area. This one completely blocks out the sun. Let's talk about a little bit of the differences between the two. And we talk more about this annular solar eclipse. Where is it going to be and at what time? What's it going to look like depending on where you live? And if you have a partial solar eclipse, maybe you're not right on the path. What's it going to look like for you? Maybe you can't get a chance to head out and see it, or maybe you're not watching one of those live streams. I want to show you what it's going to roughly look like in the sky coming up for this Saturday. But let's talk about the difference between the two solar eclipses. It has to do with the size of the moon. The moon changes its size based on how close it is to the Earth. When it's closer to us, it appears bigger. When it's farther away, of course, it looks a little bit smaller. It's going to be a little bit smaller for this upcoming solar eclipse on Saturday. So because it's smaller, you still see the sun. So you've got the sun, this dead spot kind of in the middle, that's the moon. You're not going to be able to see the definition of the moon just because of the solar light right behind it, almost looking like a ring light. People doing their TikToks and selfies, different things. But you're going to see that halo effect. So the moon sits right inside it. You get this ring of fire effect. If you're going to watch this, you still have to put those glasses on, because even though you're only getting 2 or 3% of the sun's light hitting you, it's still a lot. You can still burn those eyes and those retinas on the inside. All right, so we get the moon sitting in the middle, ring of fire. For a total eclipse, because the moon is closer to the Earth, it actually appears larger, so it completely blocks the sun. But it doesn't block out the corona, those stretches of light right on the outskirts of the sun that we normally can't see with our own eyes just because there's so much light coming in from the sun itself. So we block out the sun, you can see this effect. People love seeing the corona of the sun. And depending on where you are, you could get 3 or 4 minutes of the sky looking like this, and it gets really dark. The crickets start chirping. It kind of confuses everything from a wildlife perspective. But those are the differences. Now let's talk more about the annular solar eclipse. Where's it going to be? Here's the map. You got that dark black swath showing you where you're going to get the ring of fire effect, especially right along the red line, starting in Oregon, ending in South Texas. This is where we'll have the ring of fire effect for the longest amount of time. You get away from it, we also have other zones. So this darker gray zone shows where we have at least 75% coverage of the sun. So 3/4 of the sun is going to be covered by the moon. You get out here towards this lighter gray effect, 50%, half of the sun is going to be covered. It's not going to turn the sky orange. It's not going to really appear much differently for you from the ground. I'll show you a visualization just in a second. But you'll still see a chunk being taken out as if there's maybe partly cloudy skies, and the clouds are just blocking part of the sun. It takes place several parts of the day, just throughout the year. And you still get a lot of sunlight, but you still see the sun in it, but it's kind of clipped by one of those clouds. That's what it's going to appear like. So let's take a closer look at where the eclipse will be and at what time. So it starts on the western coast, right in Oregon. They're close to 11:15 Central Time. Where you're going to notice on here, I got to keep it in the same time zone for this number specifically. So this will be Pacific time. This will be 9:15 coming on shore. So keep in mind, this is going to be Central Time throughout this whole map thing that I show you guys. Just you got to account for what state you're in and what time zone you're in. So in Oregon, we're still in Pacific, of course. There's that ring of fire effect coming right in, just south of Portland, heading south towards southeastern Oregon, and eventually entering Nevada, closer to 11:20. By 11:25, it's in eastern Nevada, so we're going a lot over the Great Basin. Should be excellent viewing, because in the Great Basin, a lot of times we have a lot of clear skies, and we probably will be fine this weekend too. Here's Salt Lake, Great Salt Lake. We got Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City's not going to get the ring of fire, but you got to go south of town by an hour or 2, maybe 3, in order to get into that effect. But 11:25 crossing in from Nevada into Utah. And eventually we're getting into mountain time, so this would actually be about 10:35 coming into New Mexico. But look, have you been to the Four Corners area? This thing's coming right over the Four Corners. So if you've seen the monument, it's kind of cool to be standing in 4 states at once. That's where we're going to get the annular solar eclipse, that ring of fire, just probably around 11:32 11:33 there, but by 11:35 completely in Mexico. Heading into West Texas, crossing the state line in the Lone Star State. 11:45 now, we're really in Central Time. 11:45 Central Time. Crossing in, staying east of El Paso, but south of Lubbock and south of Amarillo. We stay south of Dallas. We stay south of San Antonio, Austin, but we do get pretty close to parts of those cities. But then we come out towards the Gulf Coast. Here's would be Houston. You got to get closer to Corpus Christi in order to see the path of the solar eclipse. But it leaves U.S. shores right at noon Central Time. So if I back this up, show you the map one more time, got to reload this thing. Just from Central Time's perspective, to keep it all together, this thing only goes over the U.S. for about 45 minutes. If you look, 11:15, and we just roll it across the states, right into Texas, leaving at noon. So it's really fast moving. So you only get, if you're right on that red line, you only get a couple minutes of that ring of fire effect, and then you go back to a partial solar eclipse, and then the sky pretty much looks normal from there on out. Now, if you live away from the main path, what's it going to look like? For example, let's say Arkansas and Oklahoma. We've got anywhere from about 55, 60% coverage in eastern Arkansas to about 80, maybe even 85% coverage out towards the western panhandles. Well, this is going to be what it kind of looks like overall. And this is just an example. There are other states that are kind of in this boat as well, much of California. Or maybe you're in Washington. Maybe you're in Colorado. This is roughly what it's going to look like. You get a chunk taken out, a significant chunk too. Look at Oklahoma. 70, 80% of the sun will be covered. So you get the moon passing in front of the sun. The black part is the moon. You've got the sun with this kind of yellowy orange effect. Because we still have enough sun here towards the left and kind of top left corner, we don't turn the sky necessarily really orangey. But we'll probably keep the blue sky. It would just be as if the cloud or the sun is on the edge of a cloud, but it could get slightly dimmer in some spots. That's kind of tricky to say depending on where you live in the exact percentage, but once you get even farther east, maybe 60, 70% chance, this is what it would look like at maximum partial coverage. Throughout the day, though, you know, we're talking about this maximum only taking place for a little bit, but throughout for maybe an hour or so, slowly this takes place. So at first, the moon starts coming in, and then it starts eating more, starts eating more, starts eating more, and this is what it will look at maximum, and then that dwindles back down to 0% coverage when the sun will just leave the moon, and then the sun goes back to doing its normal thing. But if you want to see this, you've got to go west, you've got to go south. Texas, New Mexico, Four Corners area, Utah, Nevada, Oregon. Those are the prime states in order to see the annual solar eclipse coming up this weekend on Saturday.